citizens of Earth, I am the superhero known as Meaning Man, here to tell you today the meaning of things. Today we're going to be looking at the meaning of The Boys and its critique of superheroes in our society. I'm not talking about superheroes in the fantasy worlds of Marvel or DC. I'm talking about the superheroes in the real world. Our political superheroes, our religious superheroes, our corporate superheroes, our YouTube superheroes. The Boys claims to be a show that reflects our reality, and I want to see exactly how it does that and what that even means. You probably didn't recognize me.
Wow.
What the f?
My name is Kyle J. Shower, and welcome to The Kyle J. Show. The Boys is not a show I would recommend for you to watch with your mother. Really, no matter who's in the room with you, it's uncomfortable, it's gross, it's gory, and it's raunchy as hell.
70th anniversary of Heroism.
You know how people say that the 3 topics you should never talk about is politics, religion, and money? Well, The Boys said, F it, I'm gonna make a whole TV show about those 3 topics. Its politics have especially stirred up some controversy. I mean, it's always been pretty political, but it's definitely gotten more explicit with it over time.
No one's putting soups into national defense.
There are illegal immigrants pouring into this country every day, and any one of them could be a super terrorist.
Is this like a canceled thing? Am I being canceled?
You think the media is going to report on that? No.
And libtard for a president.
And they want to replace you with some godless, non-binary socialists like them.
Why push to let these transgenders into the girls' bathroom?
A nationwide ban on abortion is just good policy.
I take responsibility for racism.
Season 4 was its most political yet, and it got a Rotten Tomatoes rating of 92%, but an audience rating of 55%. Despite that rating, the season was the second most watched season in the history of Amazon Prime, with over 55 million viewers. So yeah, the creator and writer, Eric Kripke, he's pretty unconcerned with the haters.
Do you ever worry about being too political?
I'm just gonna lean into it, and then the audience can sort of decide whether they want to watch or not. Like, it's almost become South Park. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, there's just so few shows that can directly comment on the world we're living in. We get to hold up a mirror as a fantasy genre show.
Is The Boys just the new South Park? I'm gonna let y'all argue that one in the comments. Either way, the show definitely attempts to hold up a mirror and expose our reality for what it truly is. Which is a timely message, because every year the political environment here in the United States seems to get more and more out of touch with reality. It honestly might be the single biggest issue in American politics that no one is talking about. When I look at Republicans and Democrats, it's like they're each living in their own little realities. Even with this show, for example, there was a viral headline that said, "Conservatives just figured out The Boys is making fun of them and their meltdown is hilarious."
What a lot of right-wingers didn't understand was that Homelander is a bad guy. Only this season are right-wingers starting to finally recognize that the show is making fun of them.
I really doubt that the large majority misunderstood that Homelander was the bad guy. So let's pop that out a little bit more. You know, can you see that? Again, bullshit. And some evidence that I know this is absolute bullshit is that these headlines that were released during season 4 were basically the exact same headlines put out during season 3. Look at that, 2 years ago. It's basically the same shit. And they're just rinse and repeating rage bait, and it works because people are so out of touch with reality. Now, I only use this example of left-wing media because it's relevant to the topic at hand. But if you're here, it's probably because you watch The Boys, so you know that conservatives do the same shit.
He's an Antifa pedo who fucked around and found out, and an eye for an eye might be in the Jew section of the Bible, but it is still in the Bible.
I mean, is it going to be true that the child pedophilia in the elites in the Washington, D.C., is that what we're really going to see come out? Is it going to be satanic worship?
I could spend the next hour showing the ways our political sphere has lost touch with reality, but that's not why we're here. I'm not a political critic. I'm not even a TV show critic. I'm a meaning critic. Meaning man. But yeah, go ahead and let me know who you're voting for down in the comments below. Don't do that. I really, really, really don't care. Honestly, ever since 2016, when Gary Johnson ran for president with the slogan, "Feel the Johnson," and we chose to not vote him into office, I've lost all faith in the American political system. As I said, said, the entire series of The Boys is an attempt to expose reality for what it truly is. Now, it's a fantasy show, so there's a ton of exaggeration and metaphors that we gotta see through in order to get the meaning. So it might look like it's a show that exposes the reality of our political system, but I think more accurately it exposes the reality of our hero system. This show, more than anything else, brilliantly lays out the modern day crisis of heroism. Heroism, heroism, heroism or heroism, heroism or heroism. So the crisis of heroism is not something I just conveniently made up because this video was on a show about heroes. This idea was originally laid out by anthropologist and philosopher Ernest Becker. In his Pulitzer Prize award-winning book, The Denial of Death, he stated that we are living in a crisis of heroism that reaches into every aspect of our social life. This book was written back in the 70s, but I gotta say, I think it still holds up today. The crisis of heroism is essentially this idea that people no longer believe that they can truly be a hero. I mean, most of us aren't politicians or billionaires or have massive online followings that enable us to really make an impact. The everyday person in our world today doesn't see how they have enough power to be capable of achieving anything truly heroic. To fully understand the crisis of heroism, we have to understand the way society creates what Becker calls a hero system, and actually claim that all of society itself is a hero system.
Society is, and always has been, a symbolic action system, a structure of statuses and roles, customs and rules for behavior, designed to serve as a vehicle of earthly heroism. Each script is somewhat unique. Each culture has a different hero system.
Basically what he's saying is that since the very beginning of humanity, we've always laid out a system that tells us the standards of being a hero. We can call this our culture's ideal hero. The ideal hero is made up of a bunch of qualities that we think are ideal to becoming a contributing member of society. The goal is for the everyday person to strive to imitate these qualities and be more and more like the ideal hero every day. As we do this, it creates the type of people we become individually and collectively. There is no system that dictates the direction of our lives more than the hero system. The directions of our politics, our businesses, our families, our character all stems from the hero system.
Hello, I'm Meaning Man, and if you're here right now, that means that you should like, subscribe, and hit the bell.
The best place to go and see a culture's hero system is by looking at a culture's hero story. So to see where we're at today in the modern American world, we can look at the multi-billion-dollar franchise known as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Iron Man teaches us that the modern hero should be innovative and inventive. The Hulk teaches us that the modern hero should channel his rage towards defeating evil. Captain America teaches us that the modern hero should be patriotic. You know, America, America, America. What the is a kilometer? In these stories, heroes are a metaphor for you and me. It shows us that potential good that is within all of us. You watch some hero in a Marvel movie, get inspired, and then attempt to be like that hero in the real world, whatever that looks like for you individually. Now, I'm sorry if this offends you, but these stories are supposed to be for children. They're meant to teach basic heroism that one should step into as they become a contributing member of society. Part of adulthood and maturity means tapping into and being that hero as much as you can on a daily basis in your everyday life. Yet when I go to the movies, I feel like the majority of people in the theater are grown-ass adults. Now, I'm not judging. To me, all this does is give evidence for Ernest Becker's crisis of heroism. The life of the everyday adult in our modern world doesn't make them feel like the heroes in our stories. So we line ourselves out the door of our movie theaters and fill the heroism void in our lives. And let's be honest, watching it on a screen is the only way this desire will ever get fulfilled, because at the end of the day, deep down inside, most of us are convinced that being a hero and the entire hero system is just a fantasy. And this is where The Boys comes in. And The Boys, they call superheroes soups, and they represent something very different than the classic superhero metaphor that we see in Marvel movies. Soups are not a metaphor for you and me. Soups are a metaphor for the ideal hero that our cultural hero system has created.
That is our job, our honor. We are Vought. We make heroes super.
Remember that slogan, it's gonna be important later. The entire point of the show is to hold up a mirror and expose the reality of our ideal hero for what it really is. But this is The Boys, so of course they take it much further. Exposing the reality of our ideal hero is just the basic premise of the show. That's baseline. From here, every season it dives deeper and deeper into the lies, conspiracy, and corruption that goes on behind the scenes of our cultural hero system. And in the good old US of A, we don't have just any old hero system. We have something that I call a superhero system. The term superhero system is in fact something that I conveniently made up due to the fact that this video is on a show about superheroes. But I actually think this is the best term possible to describe the cultural system we have here in the United States and many other places in the Western world. Now I realize that after this video drops, everyone's gonna start talking about the superhero system, but I'm a humble guy, so I wanna give credit to the boys for this name, because there's nothing that I've seen that depicts it in all of its problems better than this show. The superhero system we've created says that our ideal hero is not just any old hero, but a superhero. And the qualities that make up our ideal hero are not just any old qualities, they're super qualities. Or let's call them superpowers. The entire system is predicated on two essential beliefs that both superheroes exist and superpowers exist. In the fantasy world of the boys, it depicts what it would look like if these two things literally existed. And from that, all the problems that would come with it. This, of course, is meant to be a metaphor for actual things in our reality. And Eric Kripke is very clear on what the metaphor is.
Whose metaphor is really about the moment we're living in, which is the cross-section of celebrity and authoritarianism.
We have this show that happens to be about the intersection of celebrity and authoritarianism, this weird combination of authoritarianism and celebrity.
The problem of celebrity comes from the fact that we believe superheroes exist, and the problem of authoritarianism comes from the fact that we believe superpowers exist. In real life, of course, we don't believe these things literally exist, but give me a second to explain myself. Let's start with our belief in superheroes. I mean, this is not about the belief in fantasy characters like Iron Man, Hulk, and Captain America. It's about a belief in this idea of a superhero. And as I said, the idea is that they're not just heroes, they're superheroes. It's in the name itself. They're not just accomplishing the heroism of the everyday person. They're saving entire cities, actually countries, actually the world, actually the universe, actually the multiverse. You see, the superhero is not a person who is trying to be like the ideal hero. The superhero is a person who has become the ideal hero. The superhero system teaches us that the standard for being a hero is for you and I to truly become the ideal hero. When we walk out of the movie theater, we might not literally believe in something like Spider-Man, but we do believe there are people who exist that have become the ideal hero. And of course, we don't call them superheroes, we call them celebrities. We treat celebrities today as if they're the true ideal hero that we're all striving to be like. We imitate them in the way that we dress, the way that we talk. The shit that we buy is their shit. Then we got stan culture that's weird as hell, bro. Y'all write people letters, show up at their front door, follow everything they do on a daily basis. And it's not even like we do this with just movie stars or reality TV stars and musicians. We have celebrity athletes, celebrity pastors, celebrity environmentalists. Oh, and of course we can't forget about celebrity politicians. We low-key worship these people and elevate them to a level that is beyond human. And I know this because of how upset we get when they f up and show us the ways that they are just human. And it really pisses us off because it exposes the ways that they've cheated and climbed to the top of a system to which we're all working our asses off to climb every single day of our lives. So this isn't just an oopsie, my bad. No, they betrayed each and every one of us personally. So yeah, my point is that the belief in superheroes is the belief that it is humanly possible for us to become the ideal hero. But you can't become a superhero without superpowers. And once again, if you think about it not so literally, having superpowers is about having power, talents, or abilities that are beyond the everyday person. In the superhero system, all acts of heroism are not equal. True heroism can only be accomplished once you've attained a certain degree of power, meaning the natural gifts of each individual aren't good enough. You have to be like Jeff Bezos or something. His superpower is that he has a shit ton of money that allows him to do whatever the f he wants.
Real power isn't this. It's the ability to bend the world to your will.
To become the ideal hero, we can't just settle for any old qualities. We have to have the ideal version of that quality. You can't just be fast, strong, or intelligent. You have to be the fastest, the strongest, the intelligentest. If you just work hard enough and get on your grind, you can be the best. The problem with this is not everyone can be the best. It's a very select group of people who are in that category. And if true power requires you to be the best, that means true power is in the hands of a very select group of people. See where I'm going with this? This is the problem of authoritarianism. We're told we live in a democracy, but the superhero system is inherently not a democratic system.
Truth is, America's not a democracy. The word democracy makes people feel safe.
The Boys is a metaphor that lays out the ways the superhero system creates the problem of celebrity and authoritarianism. Our belief in superheroes creates the problem of celebrity, where we elevate people because we believe they've actually become the ideal hero. Then our belief in superpowers creates the problem of authoritarianism, where all the power in the world is only in the hands of a very select group of people. The entirety of The Boys is just one big critique that deconstructs our belief in superheroes and superpowers, exposing the reality of the superhero system. We see from season 1, episode 1, that all our ideal heroes are just a bunch of assholes, sex offenders, and literal psychopaths. Eric Kripke is honestly too good at writing these characters. It's a little concerning. But yeah, as they pull back the curtain and expose our reality for what it is, we see that no one has truly become the ideal hero. The Boys takes the social commentary even further, and in season 1 they show how superheroes have been turned into a product. You know, kind of like celebrities in real life.
That's always job one at Vought, isn't it? Protect our most profitable asset?
They show us how our belief in superheroes is used as a means to manipulate us for people to gain more money and more power. At the end of season 1, we find out about Compound V. It turns out that the source of their superpowers was just made up in a lab somewhere. If we translate the metaphor, this exposes the reality that no one has truly attained the ideal qualities that make up the ideal hero.
They would really just promote all of these sort of fake ideals to try to hook people in, but it would all be bullshit because Vought is only interested in their stock price.
In fact, the show might even be suggesting that our ideal qualities, that which we define as the best, is just something that's man-made. Or as the philosophers these days say, it's a social construct. Throughout season 2, of course they take it a step further and show that Compound V is also just a product.
And you are not our most valuable asset. That would be our confidential formula for Compound V.
This shows that our belief in superpowers is once again used to manipulate us for people to get more money and more power. In season 3, we get to confront the history of our superhero system. They take us all the way back to the birth of the first superheroes and show us that even back then they were a bunch of assholes, just sprinkled with a tad bit more racism. And the goal from the very beginning was to manipulate people for the sake of gaining money and power.
So it's just business then, eh?
When, Mr. Butcher, in history, has it ever been about anything different?
Carl with a K would, schwitz his pants over this shit. Finally, in season 4, they put an emphasis on current events, current politics, and our current social environment. They show us that the world we're living in today is still very much consumed by the superhero system with all of its delusions and manipulation.
If you crush the masses, who builds your monument? The people will tear it apart themselves. Just gotta nudge them a little. Then you get to swoop in, be the one saving it.
The Boys is a mirror that reveals the way a lot of us truly believe modern society functions. And in all of it, you can see why Ernest Becker claims that we're living in a crisis of heroism. We believe in superheroes with superpowers who are at the top manipulating us and pulling all the strings. We don't really believe that each one of us has our own particular gifts that can impact the world no matter how big or small. In the superhero system, being a hero means being a superhero. And as long as we continue to believe this, we sustain a system that leaves us powerless, manipulated, and insignificant. The underlying metaphor of soups and Compound V tells us that in reality, nobody can become a superhero and nobody can attain superpower. The superhero system taught us to believe in a kind of hero that doesn't exist. When we boil it down, the critique of The Boys is a critique on what our society believes it means to be a hero. The message of the show tells us that we need to reorient our beliefs, redefine heroism, and create a system that encourages us to be a true hero. The year is 1936. It's been over 3 decades since we left behind the Age of Enlightenment, an age that brought with it 2 industrial revolutions that sent humanity soaring into heights beyond our wildest imaginations. Yet no one imagined that on the other side we would end up with millions jobless, living on the streets in a time period known as the Great Depression. The infamous quote that God is dead, declared by philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, lingers throughout the hearts and minds of each individual. It was no longer God that could save us, but only in humanity alone can we find our source of salvation. The entire world holds its breath, anxiously awaiting for one who will use the power of science and rationality to transcend themselves into something the world has never seen before. The world is desperate for a hero, but not like a hero from the myths of old. A true hero. Meanwhile, a 25-year-old cartoonist named Lee Falk was employed by a newspaper company creating daily comic strips. He felt the desperation of the world around him and channeled his creative energy into creating a character that would soon change the world forever. The Phantom. The Phantom ran around in a tight-ass purple suit using his talents, intelligence, and strength to defeat evil. Little did he know that almost a century later, this character would be known as the birth of the superhero. Shortly after, his work would go on to inspire other artists to create characters such as Superman, Batman, The Flash, Captain America, the Hulk, and many more. Lee Falk's legacy would be eternalized as it lives on to this very day, inspiring humanity to reach up into the heavens, become like gods, and save the universe. So yeah, all that to say, the whole superhero system that's f***ed up society, it's all this guy's fault. F*** you, Lee Falk. I'm just kidding. It's not his fault whatsoever. Falk was just an artist doing what artists do, express the world around him. The birth of the superhero was just merely an expression of the birth of the superhero system that was being ingrained into the minds of every person in the Western world at this time. Unfortunately, one of those minds happened to be a guy named Adolf Hitler. He took the essential beliefs of the superhero system to its ultimate end and created what might have been the worst atrocities that humanity has ever seen. There is no other person that shows the problem of celebrity and authoritarianism greater than him. It's no coincidence that in The Boys, the origins of Vought, Compound V, and all superheroes is traced back to this very time period. It's also not shy to show the ways our world today parallels Nazi Germany. Season 2 introduces the character Stormfront, who is a literal Nazi that weaponizes memes like World War II propaganda.
Where do you get all these?
Oh, this is just the first batch. I'll have Logan punch up the fear. When you see it on your uncle's Facebook page, then you know it's working.
The CEO of Vought, Stan Edgar, even admits to using Stormfront for the sake of getting people riled up for the sake of his own manipulative purposes.
Stormfront's good at making people angry. Angry people want Compound V. Compound V raises our stock price. That's all.
And then in season 4, the Soups start dabbling with these ideas like cleansing the earth of impurities and putting people away in camps.
Use my prisons. My prisons. Homelander and Sage, they need places across the country to put their dissidents.
He's talking about internment camps.
You'd think that after everything we saw with that Hitler guy, we might want to rethink a few things. But the end of World War II did nothing but solidify the superhero system more than anything else. I mean, the war was essentially ended because we created the atom bomb. What's more godlike than having the ability to wipe out entire civilizations? Shit, and today we got the internet, iPhones, AI. Humanity seems to keep coming up with stuff that continually transcends what we thought was possible. At the pace we're moving, it kind of seems like we really can become more than human. Recent history has left us conflicted about the nature of humanity. Are we human or are we... No, are we human or are we gods? In The Boys, we see different characters represent different ways society has chosen to respond in the modern age. People like Firecracker, or this guy, whatever his name is, I really don't remember. They've chosen to put themselves in absolute service to the superhero system. They willingly accept their inferior position and put their faith in these people who they believe have truly become godlike.
You are everything to me.
On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have someone like Butcher. He's committed to destroying the entire superhero system itself. Though he has flashes of sanity where he realizes that destroying the system would mean destroying the people he loves, most of the time he's so blinded by his rage and desire for revenge that he really ends up being just as destructive and just as much of an asshole as someone like Homelander.
Well, what if we share a different destiny? Something a little more scorched earth.
Nobody embodies the spirit of the superhero system more than Homelander. Homelander is a symbol for the collective state of humankind in the modern age. He genuinely believes that he can get rid of all the flawed human parts of himself and transcend into something that is beyond human.
You're never gonna be your true self until you transcend your humanity. What do I do?
This is the striving of every person living under the superhero system that tells us not to be like our ideals, but to become our ideals. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican whose ideals are rooted in tradition, or a Democrat whose ideals are rooted in progress. We might not explicitly say it, but we act as if the ideal heights that we're striving for can truly be reached, and at that point, everything will be made perfect. As Homelander strives for this ideal self in the ideal world, he comes up against one major problem. reality. A reality that was revealed to him by a single gray-haired pube. Despite being the most powerful being in existence, in every attempt to become something beyond human, he's faced with the reality that he is in fact only human. He completely denies this reality and instead chooses to violently assert his will upon the entire world, which, like I said, has basically been the story of humanity for the past century. Ernest Becker claimed that the crisis of heroism and the central issue of humankind was the denial of death. Now, he's a brilliant man, and I don't believe I have the skills and knowledge to argue him. However, for the sake of today's conversation, I will broaden his theory a bit and claim that the crisis of heroism and the central issue of humankind is the denial of reality. The problem with our hero system today is that it denies a fundamental aspect of reality that Ernest Becker and plenty of others have called the sacred. Give me a second, I'm not about to try and make some call to Jesus or convince you to believe in some religion. I think this is an aspect that's true to reality, whether you believe in some God, the universe, or science.
I don't believe in God. I believe in science.
To give a complete definition of the sacred is probably way too big to fit into this concluding section here, but with my own shortcut explanation, I would say that the sacred is the aspects of reality that are infinitely beyond human capacity. For example, many of our ideals exist in the realm of the sacred. Concepts like being perfect, creating a utopia, or having absolute equality are all ideals which we should be striving for every day, but ultimately they're outside of what is truly possible because of the constraints of our own humanity. Listen, I don't want to overcomplicate this, and honestly, most people understand that they're limited and can't act on every thought that runs across their head. Right now, I could imagine growing wings and flying off my balcony into the horizon. But if I tried that, I would fall 2 stories and break my dick. It's really not as controversial as it might have initially sounded. To believe in the sacred doesn't mean believing in some guy in the sky sending people to heaven or hell. Though if you believe that, I'm not arguing against that either. All I'm saying is that to believe in the sacred means believing that there is currently something and will always be something more out there for us to learn about, to strive for, and to become individually and collectively. In reference to the sacred, Ernest Becker declared that for man, not everything is possible. I'm not trying to claim that this is anything new and revolutionary. There have been plenty of people who have discussed this in both religious and secular space. However, with each new system that we create, there are new ways in which this will need to be brought up and dealt with. In theory, it's not that complicated, but in practice, it's one of the most difficult experiences we have to contend with. Stories since the beginning of time have warned of our natural human tendency to play the role of God. The Boys is another one of those stories, but it speaks directly to our modern age. With things like the death of God and the incomprehensible power that we obtain from the Age of Enlightenment, we've justified to ourselves the entire superhero system. Something like the ideal hero is not infinitely beyond humanity. It's something that man can and must truly become.
You and me. We're gods. Son, we can do anything we want.
Homelander, in all of his attempts to deny the reality of the sacred, is the most delusional, evil, and honestly weak person in the entire show. Yet he's a symbol for the type of people that the superhero system creates, believing that there is no higher power, we are the higher power. However, other characters like Huey, Annie, Frenchie, Kimiko, MM, they've chosen to take an alternative route. And I actually want to take the time to highlight Annie for just a moment. Now, her development in season 4 was pretty weird, and I don't know how to feel about it.
The ring on her finger. I thought I was getting engaged to you, all right? She looks just like you.
But if we go back to season 2, her entire arc really exemplifies one of the few solutions the Boys has to offer. After finding out her powers weren't a gift from God, but from a corporate lab, she goes through her own personal death of God experience.
There's nobody in Sky watching over us. Not God, not Homelander. The good guys don't win. The bad guys don't get punished. What we do means nothing. It's just all for money.
At the end of this season, after she watches Butcher choose to go out of his way to save Homelander's son, Ryan, the act of love is so moving that it completely changes her perspective.
If Billy Butcher can do the right thing, then there's gotta be some kind of higher power.
Now, there might be something pretty insightful here with the whole concept of love, but I just did an entire video of that with Billie Eilish and Spirited Away, so I'm not gonna do that again. I think this simple declaration that Annie makes is all we need to begin to get ourselves back on the right path. When we put our ideals and hero system in service of humanity, its ultimate end will be filled with all our flaws, manipulations, and delusions. But when we choose to put our ideals and hero system in service of something beyond ourselves, there is an infinite amount of room for us to grow, transform, and create a better life. When we put ourselves in service of that which is beyond ourselves, we're brought back to the reality of who we truly are and the reality of what makes someone a true hero.
By making your hero system at the service of your creator, the sacred, you have the distinction of making a gift of your life no matter what the special quality of that gift is. As you last out your life with courage, forbearance and dignity, you affirm your divine calling by simply living it out.
In putting ourselves in service to the sacred, true heroism can be accomplished within the lives of the everyday person. There is no amount of power, ability, or talent that makes any one heroic act greater than the other.
They are training the public to wait for a strong man to come in to save them. They're teaching the wrong lesson ultimately, because we all have to save ourselves and work together, and it's slow and it's small and it's boring. But that's how the world gets better. But we're not being trained to feel that way. We're being trained for these big grand gestures and these powerful people. And that's why certain politicians can say, I'm the only one who can save you, and have people listen to that.
The message of The Boys tells us that we need to change our idea of what it means to be a true hero. In the daily act that is seemingly slow, small, and boring, one can find themselves embodying what it means to have true heroism. Reaching some celebrity status doesn't make you a hero, and attaining some insane amount of authoritative power doesn't make your actions heroic. A true hero is one who chooses to accept reality and live within the tension between our humanity and the sacred. The true heroic act is the decision to strive for the impossible, despite the limited, finite circumstances you might find yourself in. If there's anything you could take away from this video, I hope you'd see that you're good enough as you are right now to make an impact on the world around you and be a true hero. That's it for me. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you next time.